Scholars of Story, welcome back to the Magic Story Podcast, your guide to the planes, characters, and stories of the Magic Multiverse. I am one of your co-hosts, Harless.
And I am your other co-host, Natalie. This is your official acceptance letter to Strixhaven University, the greatest school in the multiverse. Apologies to my alma mater there. So here, the most promising students from across the planes come to hone their magical skills at one of 5 colleges. Strixhaven has been educating students for centuries, and now the doors to the multiverse have been flung open. So we're taking you to campus for the tour of a lifetime in Secrets of Strixhaven.
This is a particularly special set for both of us. I know Strixhaven was really one of the first settings that you and I both really fell in love with when Strixhaven School of Mages dropped in 2021. And now we're headed back to school for a new semester of spellcasting, secrets, and of course, stories. Now, we get a surprise prelude to Secrets of Strixhaven in Off the Record by Valerie Valdez. And in this story, we're going to meet one of Strixhaven's newest professors, Raul Zarek, who was busy investigating dragon storms on Bloomborough as an otter last time we saw him. So I have a lot of questions, including why he looks just not at all is it.
Right? I have so many questions. So it looks like there are indeed many secrets from Strixhaven, and you can read or listen to Off the Record right now on Daily MTG or wherever you get your podcasts. But today's topic isn't Professor Zarek's questionable pedagogy. We're looking at all of Strixhaven University, plus a bit of a peek at off-campus life. Consider this your syllabus for Secrets of Strixhaven. And of course, all of this will be on the test. Now, Secrets of Strixhaven pre-release events begin on April 17th, so register now at your local game store. You even get these cool themed pre-release packs that feature one of the 5 Strixhaven colleges, and we actually did this back in the original Strixhaven School of Mages, so we're bringing that back for Secrets of Strixhaven. And we'll actually be covering those 5 colleges today in our episode. So that prepares you for the set's global tabletop release on April 24th. So apply for admission or just pre-order today at your local game store or elsewhere Magic is sold.
Today, we want to get you familiar with the 5 colleges of Strixhaven University, as well as some of the friendly faces you'll be seeing as you walk around campus. Now, by the end of this episode, we hope you'll have found your unique college and be prepared to pursue all of your academic dreams.
Now, listeners, class is officially in session and exams are fast approaching. So join us as we head into the multiverse.
There's quite a bit to cover about Strixhaven University, and like any hefty course load, we're going to want some solid tutors. Now, luckily, Strixhaven offers the finest academic counseling in the multiverse, which means we've secured Professor Lauren Bond, the lead narrative designer for Secrets of Strixhaven. Lauren, welcome back to the podcast.
Thank you. It's super exciting to be here. I was like you said, the narrative lead on the set, so responsible for a lot of the background world building, kind of taking a look at our schools and deciding what we're keeping, what we're changing, and what we're adding into the setting.
Yeah, so with Tarkir Dragonstorm, I remember that set, you proved that you can make a return to a beloved Magic setting something really, really special. And when you were tasked with leading the narrative design of our return to Strixhaven University, what was your original reaction? Were you a fan of the original Strixhaven set, or was this something totally new to you?
So Strixhaven kind of has a special place for me. It was one of the first sets that I had any involvement with from a production standpoint. So it was one of our kind of the earliest sets that was in production when I was here. So being able to return to a setting that I'd been part of some of that early development on was really an exciting opportunity. And having come from Tarkir, I was pretty familiar at that point with working in factionalized settings where we've got these kind of really distinct needs in what the card set wants and how game design is going about their role. So it was exciting to be able to take those learnings from Tarkir and apply them into a new setting that I was a little bit more familiar with from the beginning.
But for a massive course load like this, we, of course, wanted some extra academic firepower. So, coming to the Magic Story podcast for the very first time, please welcome Magic's senior creative lead and Arcavian expert, Matt Danner.
Hey, thanks so much for having me. Longtime listener, first-time guest, really thrilled to be here. Thanks for having me on. Return to Strixhaven is awesome. It's a beloved setting. It's a two-color faction setting, enemy pairs. And I was stoked when we learned that Lauren was actually going to be leading up the project, particularly coming off of the success that was Tarkir Dragonstorm. So, yeah.
Now, I think a lot of players really find themselves drawn to Strixhaven because of how easy it is to just imagine yourself in the setting. I mean, of course, there's an entire D&D book about it. And I saw that a lot of players were just really ravenous for just more adventures here. A return like this really feels like a great way to expand upon what people already love, while also giving them some new tidbits about the setting.
So a lot of this set builds off of what was established in our last visit to this campus. And Strixhaven, in case you aren't familiar, is a magical university on the plane of Arcavios, and encapsulating these 5 colleges that each are led by one of the university's elder dragon founders.
Yeah, so if you've been playing Magic for a while or following the story, then maybe you were around for the initial Strixhaven School of Mages. Maybe you even wrote up a character and played in Dungeons & Dragons Curriculum of Chaos. Maybe you followed along at home and saw the Phyrexian invasion during March of the Machines and everything that happened there. Maybe you've done the extra credit. Maybe you've pre-ordered Omens of Chaos by the amazing Hugo-nominated author Shauna McGuire. Regardless of if you're new to the setting or a returning student, you're going to fall in love with all the work that the team did here, whether it's for the first time or all over again. So you've seen the first year students in Lorwyn Eclipsed. They're back here. It's about a semester later. And then really just all 5 schools are here. The dragons are here. The mascots are here. The archaics are here. We'll learn some new lessons. We'll take field trips off campus, and we expand the lens on Arcavios.
Each college specializes in a particular field of magical study. And while they're applying their work in these really fantastical ways, it does resemble a real-world college in some ways. So students are going to debate with their classmates there, which I, of course, remember doing in some particularly contentious courses. But that's all because they're exploring these fields and finding where they fall within them. So sure, teamwork is a part of learning, but so is spirited debate and arguing with your fellow students.
Yeah, and all of these colleges are aligned with 2 colors of magic, and each color represents one of the 2 key approaches of that college. And this clash of ideals sets these colleges apart from a lot of the other factions that you might see in Magic. And because the students are getting their footing in the world and their studies, there's an emphasis on exploring kind of the different motives for their studies.
So when we have these 2-color faction settings, we really get an opportunity to explore what the colors of magic and mana really mean, as opposed to some of our other settings where we don't get to dive into it quite as deeply. So with Strixhaven, we're really looking at the tension between those colors and seeing how they manifest in an academic setting. So you might be the white alignment of Lorehold, where it's all about order and the sort of knowledge of the strict sequence of events of the past, or you might be the white aligned Silverquill, where it's really about buffing up and caring about your fellow classmates. And that really allows us to see the different ways these colors manifest that we don't often get to explore as deeply in some of our other faction aligned settings. And that's one of the parts that I love about working on Strixhaven.
Each student feels distinct from each other, but they all belong at the same college. They're all on the same campus. They're all learning together. So I can look at a Strixhaven student who is casting spells with dramatic readings of their writing, and I can think, oh, I could see them at like a campus poetry slam. But another student from that same Strixhaven college could look and act completely different.
You could even spin that around and imagine yourself as a Strixhaven student. And so I majored in English, and I spent years refining my work and getting into debates about every minute detail in a text. And then I look at Strixhaven, and I realize I can totally see myself as Silverquill, which is the College of Eloquence.
Silverquill is the school that represents white and black mana and the tension between the two of them. As the College of Eloquence, it is all about language in all of its form. Written language, spoken, signed, and everything in between. And in this set, we really wanted to expand the depictions of language that we saw throughout. So we're going to see more poetry, more theater, more dramatic readings and reenactments, and, a few more fights and sword spellcasting stuff too as well. Silverquill is the school that's all about being polished, being put together, but it's not unfeeling, and that's that white mana side. It really does care about the other people around them, but it's about controlling those feelings for yourself and for others. I like to think of Silverquill where the pen is also the sword.
Yeah, you said like duels and fighting, and I'm like, it wouldn't be Silverquill without that.
I mean, what is debate if not just a word duel?
Exactly.
One of my favorite aspects of Silverquill is how you portray verbal and written magic through the inherently silent medium of a magic card. So we can't hear the venomous tone someone might use to fling a dagger or the softness in a healing spell incantation, but y'all really found a way to convey that through the artwork. So what were some of the ways that you wanted to show the style of spellcasting in that artwork?
We focused on kind of some minor updates to the visuals across all of the schools, but you will notice that Silverquill probably has one of the biggest changes in terms of how its magic is depicted. This is, in world, a little bit of a reaction actually to the Phyrexian invasion. If you see the original Inkling designs, they're a little reminiscent to Phyrexian oil being kind of viscous and ink-like. Gloopy. Yeah. And part of in this was paying off the idea that the school has had a reaction and students have had reactions. They have all been through this shared trauma. And so we changed the designs away from that kind of more inky aesthetic into something that was more reminiscent of calligraphy and kind of other forms of illuminated manuscript to really showcase that the school is living and breathing and changing over time in response to what's happening in the world. And this also allows us to kind of showcase the language in a little bit more of a literal sense as you're kind of seeing magic that feels inspired by written text. And then combined with that, we layered in more elements of physicality with each of these schools, really sort of dividing or defining what each of them kind of is about when they showcase their magic. And for Silverquill, we took a lot of inspiration from fencing and from ballet, things that are very elegant and poised and just a little bit deadly.
I can so see ballet as part of Silverquill. But I love this ink motif that you were talking about in like all of their spells, and it even appears in some of their designs of their buildings and the decorations that you can see around their campus. And you see these pen nibs all over their clothing and even their spell casting styluses, which they use to inscribe their spells into the air or manifest inklings. And I don't know what's more impressive, the fact that they harness magic or they manage to do it without ever staining their clothes.
I like to think that, like the difference in the ink mascots kind of before and then now, where you have that just kind of like almost like that spilled ink. Now I always imagine when I think of this, someone writing like the lyrics to a song and then their mascot's just like a little floaty treble clef or like little floaty music notes. It just really showcases exactly what they're doing in a way that feels so much more unique than the like ink splot that they were before.
It also really helps us convey the mechanics of what the cards are doing. If you're giving someone flying and the visuals show pairs of wings in it, it really helps the player understand both what their magic is about in the world and also what the game piece is telling them
on the battlefield.
Yeah.
And I think that this is like a really cool spot to highlight our lead AD on this, Ovidio Cartagena, right? Like he brought all of this to life and really wanted to take a deeper dive into what do the mascots for the school with arguably the best handwriting look like, and really seeing those the manifestation of the inklings this time around brought to life. And that was one of the things that when we have the concept wall and we're going by, so we're looking through everything, everybody saw them for the first time and was like, yeah, this, right? And that the penmanship kind of transcends everything that they're doing. They are so well put together. They are so poised. Everything from their collar stays to their uniforms kind of have this written motif to it and this pen motif to it. And that was very deliberate, and it just reads so well. And again, like if you're going to be at the Forum of Amity debating against somebody else, you're going to have to be dressed to the nines. You got to look good to fight good.
One of the things that Ovidio was really conscious of as he was the art directing for the set was making sure that there was these kind of shared motifs throughout each of these schools and really building on what we'd already seen previously, but kind of getting that feeling of a dress code that's sort of not quite a uniform, because we still want the students to have that personality, but something that makes them feel like these cohesive groups that when you see the squad walking across campus, you know what group that squad is part of.
Now, if you want more context on the Phyrexian invasion's impact on Strixhaven in particular, the story A Radiant Heart from March of the Machine gives more context on how those events affected the campus and the students from the original Strixhaven set. Now, while Silverquill is the college for the eloquent and calculating scholar, they aren't the only ones with a penchant for performance. The Prismari College takes that spontaneity and energy of your average art student and turns it up to 11 or 12 or 13. Leading to some especially explosive creations. So, who exactly are these arcane artisans?
Yeah, so when the founding dragons kind of looked at the dichotomy of the colors that they saw in the snarls in their world on Arcavios, Prismari is the coming together of that red mana and that blue mana, right? This dichotomy of you have the passion coming from the red and this self-expression, but then you have this artistic strive for perfection coming from the blue side of things. And Prismari is where those two meet. So whether you're a sculptor, an interpretive dancer, or a painter, Prismari is likely the school that you're going to call home.
So one of the things we find with Prismari is it's really that oscillation between like the open creativity and the perfection of finishing a thing, which I think many artists can identify with.
Not at all. I don't know what you mean.
and that kind of sets them up in contrast to Is It, which is a little bit more about the product, where Prismari is a little bit more about the process of how you get there. And they do overlap a little bit with Silverquill. I like to think of, they might both perform Shakespeare, but Prismari is going to do a strange, esoteric, interpretive, alternative version of it, and Silverquill's going to follow the script.
So looking at some of the Prismari artwork from this set, I'm seeing a lot of strong silhouettes and wild shapes for the student, whether that's from their spells or their clothes. And I love the flowing shapes of their collars, the elemental effects of their magic, and all these helixes they paint. They like fling it from their styluses.
A lot of these art pieces depict students in the act of creation, and we don't see their final product or really get a sense of what they're making. The whole college cultivates this spirit of constant iterative creativity. The work is never finished, perfect, or predictable.
Now, I am really excited to see all of these different expressions of Prismari magic in the set. And we as players kind of get to be the audience for their performances, which is really cool. And a lot of the most exciting spells and creations take center stage at Summit Fest, which is a new piece of Prismari tradition we're seeing for the very first time in Secrets of Strixhaven.
So Summit Fest is part of the desire and the goal of Secrets of Strixhaven to expand beyond just the campus and see more of the places where the students have to interact with the real world and its inevitable difficulties and cruelties. Summit Fest is a performance space that is hosted by Prismari as a school, but it is open to people from outside Prismari. It's really a chance for students to put their work in front of the critical eyes of many other audience members. It is a place that is filled with inspiration and the dangers of the natural world. That's all about collaboration, showing off, and exploration. It's this concentrated artistic energy all in one place. We took a lot of inspiration from kind of real world events, fringe festivals, Burning Man, and kind of other activities where you're just bringing people together to experience the explosive joy of creation.
Not every college is focused on the bright and shiny side of Strixhaven. The students of Witherbloom College harness the macabre energies of life and death, of growth and decay for their own academic ends. Now, every school needs a group of goth kids, and Strixhaven has Witherbloom.
Right, so the Green-Black School of Witherbloom, these are your plant-loving conservationists. These are your goth nurses. These are your kindly park rangers who just really love nature. And it's not all just doom and gloom. These folks are very interested in maybe morbidly curious in the very thin veil between life and death, right? They want to examine the mortal coil and maybe unravel it and then knit it back together in their own making. You've heard of better living through chemistry. Why not better dying through chemistry? Witherbloom's got the potions to cure what ails you, and also probably reverse that as well, right? So just be nice to them, bring them on your camping trips. It's going to be great. Although I am a Quandrix at heart, I personally believe that Witherbloom has the absolute coolest off-campus location in Titan's Grave.
Titan's Grave is the remains of a long-fallen Titan that its bones, its flesh is decayed, and its bones now form the skeleton of a village that has sort of spawned up in this sprawling, foresty, swampy region. And the students from Witherbloom are sent there to study, to investigate the strange and curious life forms. One of my favorites, also designed in our concept push by our lead AD video, are the Lumerets, which are small little strange creatures that we will learn more about through the fiction. And they also sometimes encounter in this place the more, I'd say, seedy side of in both senses, in both the seeds, but also in the unsavory aspects of the real world with, we'll say, like, sort of quasi-legal things being bought and sold.
This is where they go to get their hands dirty.
To dig in to the secrets of nature.
Someone's gonna have to call Cutter. We're not gonna stop doing this.
Don't soil the good name of this podcast.
Part of what makes Strixhaven so cool to me is seeing these magic multiverse versions of people in your life. And maybe you knew the local clutch of mall goths, or maybe you were that mall goth. And Witherbloom takes those goth aesthetics and reimagines them through the lens of magic. The layered clothes, the bright green and black lights. It's a celebration of that very specific kind of student.
As someone who loves a good goth look, I mean, who doesn't? Seeing all the different expressions of the Witherbloom students is a dream for my personal lookbook. You really get the sense that these students are really at one with nature, which we really see in how they add elements of flowers and bones into their clothing. And I really think we should all be incorporating more bird skulls into our clothes.
And it's not just your average Witherbloom student who's serving looks here. We're also seeing some sweet legendary creatures like Lewin, who debuted in Lore When Eclipsed and is now officially, congratulations Lewin, a Strixhaven student.
Yay.
Lewin, or Lulu, is part of the first years. And the company that he keeps is going to be kind of a bit of a through line for the players to follow along at home, right? You've met the first years in Lore When Eclipse, and this was kind of a unique challenge for Lore. And typically when we kick off a set, it's, hey, here's kind of who the characters are going to be. We work with the principal story lead, Roy Grant, friend of the show. And there's this really cool moment where we're like, hey, here's what's going to be happening. And here's the big story. Can you help bring this to life? And Lauren's like, yeah, no problem. I was like, cool. Can you do it a set earlier? With the help of our production team, we were able to make it happen. But anyway, that's kind of how you got to see these first years that are going to take us from Lore When Eclipse through Secrets of Strixhaven and spoilers, maybe into the future a bit.
Who could know? Not these two.
Absolutely not. I have no idea what's coming next. One of the things we did really want to explore with each of these students, and I was super excited to work with Roy on, is really figuring out like the archetypes of students that they were going to represent, and also how to set them up in contrast to kind of the previous iteration of students that we saw as well, so we can showcase different themes within different schools. So I love Lulu. Lewin is the kind of curious outsider, the person that really is giving us, now they are the one that's out of place, and they kind of give us that perception of what does it mean to be somewhere you are maybe a stranger to or is strange to you. We have Tam, who's really our stoic academic, kind of very internalized, learning what it is like to kind of be part of a larger group. We have Kirill, who is enthusiastic, is caring, maybe not the most academic, and sort of finding their own place in the world where they lean very heavily into the action side of Lorehold. We have Abigail, who is dear to my heart as the person, the cold exterior, but the warm interior. And then Sonar, who is just the epitome of that impulsive creative, the person who is all about doing the thing and doesn't really care about ever finishing the thing.
I know I'm a sucker for seeing characters progress across the cards, whether that's within a set like The Crew and Edge of Eternities or across releases like we're seeing here. We saw Sinara, Kirol, Tam, Abigail, and Lewin in their initial iterations during Lorwyn Eclipsed, and we'll see them a bit older in Secrets of Strixhaven.
But it's not all returning Witherbloom characters. We're excited to share a brand new character we will meet for the first time in Secrets of Strixhaven. And not just a new character, but a new planeswalker. Matt, anything you want to share with the class about this new planeswalking professor?
Okay, there is so much that I want to share about this guy, and I can't, because I was like, when does this episode come out? And you were like, prior to story 1. And I was like, right. Needless to say, Roy Graham and company have some awesome stuff planned for us for Delian and the whole cast of characters here. There's a huge story arc that's going on. Delian himself, what I can say, mysterious, macabre, debonair, the youngest tenured Strixhaven professor ever. He was laid low, gone for a moment, which you'll find out more about. But one of the things that is really worth highlighting is how you're going to get to see the through line and who this character is, and how the students come to know him, and how you as the fans will actually get to know him and hopefully play with him on your side of the battlefield.
You will meet this new character and learn their story in the coming weeks, but for now, we'll let you theorize about this mysterious figure. We look forward to reading how you think this is secretly Imrical.
So speaking of magic history and the study of stories, our next college is full of experts on multiversal history. These students have read up on every battle, every peace treaty, every marginal moment in the tale of the most obscure civilization, and they have thoughts about it all. Let's meet the students of Lorehold, like the planeswalking prodigy, Quintorius Cand, who last appeared, if you remember, in Lost Caverns of Ixalan.
Oh, I remember deeply.
Me too.
Love Quintorius. So excited
Love
about
Quint.
Quintorius. And it looks like we're going to see him again soon, going off the Lorehold Commander deck. So Quintorius and all of the Lorehold students really embody a zeal for history and research that's so fascinating. So Lauren, what are some of the tenets of Lorehold studies that we'll be seeing from Quintorius and all the other students?
Lorehold is the school that's all about red and white mana, and of course, the study of history, but not just the past in sort of a chronology of events. It's also about the complexity, the messiness, the tension, the war. You don't have a plane with a blood age without having a lot of blood to spill to study and a lot of wars that probably led to that. So Lorehold is there to understand that idea of, is the past did it come from a logical sequence of events? Are things predictable and routine, or do things just kind of happen and there is no preparing or reacting to it? And that's that tension, that duality between order and chaos that we see with red and white mana.
So a huge part of this study of the world involves immersing oneself in their work. And these Lorehold students do that quite literally. They wear robes that are adorned with books and scrolls, but they also conjure the spirits of those they study to ask them questions. So research really doesn't get more direct than that.
These are your rock jocks. Lorehold is the school of archaeomancy, right? They're going to go back, and not only are they going to dig up the past, they're going to reanimate the past so they can have conversations with these spirits. And now, to the earlier point of, you don't get a blood age is not just a clever term, right? 6,300 years of blood age prior to the new era of arcane might. And so they're going back and they're interviewing and getting these firsthand accounts of the histories of the place. Now, history is told by the victor. However, here, you can talk to the losers as well and really dig deep and get to the bottom, to the bedrock, to get a firm understanding of what happened in the past.
So these spirits are, in the truest sense of the term, products of their time. One spirit might retell a battle very different from another, or misinterpret the events entirely. And that could be based on where they were standing on the battlefield even, right? So it's all the positives and negatives of a primary source at the most extreme.
And part of that research means stepping beyond the bounds of the library. I mean, terrifying, I know, but entering the field as, like, quite literally, as a scholar. And the students of Lorehold confront their work firsthand in the Fields of Strife, which is a very cool magical battlefield where out of time spirits, like, literally clash.
The Fields of Strife were the location to kind of explore, really dig into that Blood Age and understand how the violent past of Arcavios is the entire reason the School of Strixhaven exists in the first place. And this is where the students go to literally immerse themselves and to study it. And it comes with its own dangers, both the environment. It really leans into some of the kind of early Mesopotamian and Sumerian visual designs that comes a lot from that cuneiform style magic that Lorehold's using. So we have a hot, sun-baked vista wherein one must make sure you're fully prepared for your adventure. And also, there's a bunch of spirits fighting them and sort of a pervasive magical energy in this region that can hypnotize you, make you become consumed and subsumed into the fight yourself. So if you are not careful, a wayward student may suddenly become a wayward spirit.
Now, there is a very specific type of student who dreams of this opportunity, standing not just where history happened, but alongside it. There's so many stories that can be spun out of this, and I'm looking forward to seeing this in our Lorehold-focused side story. Again, no spoilers, but stay tuned for preview season.
Before we wrap up this lecture, we've got one more college to focus on. At Strixhaven, everything takes on a life of its own. Living spirits of history, sapient sculptures, and even the concept of math itself. The students of Quandrix apply their abstract calculations to very tangible problems, and it all adds up to one of the most visually appealing and baffling colleges on campus.
Now, I've been told that all of the colleges have been given equal weight in the set. Now, if there were to be a first amongst equals, it would be Quandrix, truly the greatest of all of the schools, and something that they would really, there's a bit of a puzzle here because it's greater than the sum of its parts, right? A Quandrix student takes the green mana of reality and then applies the theoretical to it in the blue, right? It's really kind of looking at it and then crunching the numbers and then just turning it into incredible fractals, right? You were captivated with the application of all of the maths, right? You got applied geometry, mathemagics. We've actually seen a card in which, this may not surprise you, but many of the folks in R&D probably are Quandrix students themselves, and thus you get cards like Mathemagics where you're actually solving the equation at the table. You get 2 to the x power. We've got an exponent for an x cost on a magic card. We've done it. So, you want to draw 512 cards? I've got an easy way for you to do so here. We've even put cheater text on there as well for folks that aren't maybe part of the Quandrix school.
Now, is that like the positive version of 52 card pickups?
Very possible. This card can draw you a lot of cards. But again, like you talk about just, for me as a Quandrix student, I'm so pumped about this college. I'm so glad to see them again. And they've really elevated their game. You're going back and you're like, oh man, these biomes are incredible. These costumes are incredible. You've got Zimone and Primo are back. They've got just the absolute best mascots. I'm so thrilled to see everyone, both new and some of the returning characters as well.
I have to say, I'm never more excited to do math, than it's with magic. All right, so I know magic designers, and I know that there are plenty of statisticians who are very excited to put an exponent on a card. And it's a great way of bringing these elements of mathematics onto cards, and we see the students of Quandrix applying their work in very equally unique ways. And you get green mana's application of math, like you said, with the natural world alongside the abstract theories of blue mana. And it's two very complex, but two very cool schools of thought kind of uniting as one.
Yeah, and one of our favorite creations from Quandrix are the fractals. Of course, we first saw the fractal creature type crop up in our first visit, and they've only gotten weirder in the intervening years. So what kind of calculated critters can we expect to see in Secrets of Strixhaven?
For all of the schools, we really wanted their mascots to shine, and this time not just on token cards. We will see them across the set on their own creature cards, and they're incorporating new aspects of new animal creature types to kind of really reinforce the mechanics of what's happening on the card. So we'll see that with the fractals, with the pests, with the spirits, inklings, and elementals. I got them all. And this really helped us build a little bit more personality in the world, a little convey kind of the personality of the student that is conjuring or creating their fractal or their inkling. And because these mascots are more than just summoned things, they're also the familiars. Oftentimes the students will work alongside them. So I was really excited as well to bring back Primo and to showcase kind of the way that we've seen them as characters in their own right, and not just critters that are kind of showing up across their token cards.
Now, I'm always a sucker for Magic's unique creature types. I mean, we've got Slivers, Eldrazi, Drix, and I think fractals have such a stunning design. And I couldn't be happier that these fractals are getting their time in the spotlight in this set. But a fractal needs someone to summon it, obviously. And there's perhaps no one better at summoning a living equation than, of course, Zimone Wola.
Zimone's last story appearance was in Duskmourn House of Horrors, where she was working on her graduate thesis and studying the very structure of the multiverse. The Wola family's latest prodigy is continuing her studies in Secrets of Strixhaven, and she'll be making an appearance as the face of the Quandrix Unlimited Commander deck and is the star of one of the set's side stories. So after studying abroad in a demonic house filled with horrors beyond imagination, Simone is going to confront something far more terrifying: postgraduate life.
So while the main set features our newest crop of students, we're seeing the students of Strixhaven School of Mages, our original stop through Strixhaven, in this set's commander decks and side stories. That makes for 5 commander decks, 1 for each college, helmed by one of the college's most famous scholars and graduates. So what was it like to work on the progression of these characters, especially ones we haven't seen in, several years?
Yeah, so this is a really awesome opportunity to showcase the collaboration of this set, right? We have the returning characters, and props to Lauren and team for actually fitting them back into this. Time has moved on. We've seen them in the March of the Machines storyline, post-invasion, and now we're kind of picking back up and seeing where they are, and they're back in the set. They're the faces of the commander decks themselves. Additionally, we have this first-year crop and these new students that we're about a semester later, coming up and becoming students of their own right, pledging to one of the colleges and following their adventure as well. And so it's just this really awesome kind of, this is where it all comes to fruition. Again, kudos to you and the team on this one.
As part of the process, there was just a lot of collaboration to figure out what aspects of these characters' stories and sort of the next stage in their life we wanted to showcase. And so no spoilers, but we'll see lots of different ways, different personalities approach the question of, oh no, I'm graduating, what now? Which I'm sure is not relatable, not relatable at all.
No.
And we see a lot of different ways of approaching that question for these characters and really get a sense of where they were, where they're headed, and maybe a little idea of where they might be going next.
Yeah, and I will never say no to a Quintorius commander deck. I mean, come on.
Who could? Yeah, it's going to be very difficult to choose which of the 5 commander decks I would like to play first. I say first because I will be playing through all of them.
True.
Well, I, for one, cannot wait to see the new artwork and mechanics for these characters in the Secrets of Strixhaven commander decks, as well as explore what they're up to with the set side stories. Again, those will all be published alongside previews in the coming weeks, so stay tuned for those.
Lauren, Danner, thank you so much for joining us on this trip through Strixhaven. Just hearing about your passion for this set is just so infectious, and I didn't think I could get more hyped for this set, but lo and behold, here we are.
Before we sign off, are there any folks you want to shout out who worked on the set, or anything we didn't touch on that you want to discuss?
Far too many to even mention, I think. When I'm up here, yes, I am up here as a face, but I am on the shoulders of giants. I have to give credit where it's due. Everything from Ovidio Cartagena's and Lauren Bond's vision early on, along with our in-house kind of concept artists. So Jose Vega, Jaehan Chu, Amanda Lee, Gray Highstead, just really working, again, with our external collaborators as well. There's an entire faction of folks at our back that have this. It takes a multiverse. You can't do it alone. And take a look at the set credits. And again, just go out, pre-order Shannon's book. You like Magic Story. Have I got great news for you? There's a ton of it that you can read in Omens of Chaos. And yeah, hope to see it pre-release.
Everyone who worked on the set was just such an incredible collaborator, from the early conversations and problem solving to the kind of very nitty gritty of getting all of the art and every artist that worked on the set as well. It was just such a delight. It was wonderful to be a small part of bringing Strixhaven back to Magic fans. So I hope you enjoy.
Well, I have never been more excited to go back to school, and your education begins with the 6-episode story of Secrets of Strixhaven, which begins on March 23rd over on mtgstory.com and right here on the Magic Story podcast. Then previews begin in earnest on March 31st with the debut of Secrets of Strixhaven on twitch.tv/magic and the official Magic the Gathering YouTube channel. So during preview season, we will also publish 5 side stories, one for each of the colleges, so keep an eye out for those.
Your coursework continues on April 17th with the start of Secrets of Strixhaven pre-release events at your local game store, followed by the set's global tabletop release on April 24th. Make sure to enroll early and register for pre-release today. Secrets of Strixhaven is available for pre-order now. You can pre-order play boosters, collector boosters, commander decks, and more from your local game store, TCG Player, Amazon, and everywhere else that Magic is sold. Links are in the description. And if you're into Magic Story, which I think it's safe to assume that our listeners are, we've got some assigned reading for Strixhaven, Omens of Chaos by Sean McGuire, which releases on April 7th wherever books are sold. Pre-order today from your local bookstore, online retailer, or find a copy in the Biblioplex.
Thanks so much for joining us on this trip through Strixhaven University, where the greatest minds in the multiverse become even greater. We'll be tuned in for the start of Secrets of Strixhaven story on March 23rd, but until then, have a magical day.